Hi,
And
Fermi.
there's Faradmi. Samuel, do you know Faradmi as well?
Oh, Fermi has been an amazing addition to the team. I remember reaching out to or colleague of mine reaching out to our early match when we started all this and we're speaking to a number of MBA students and getting their perspective on this. And she handled the session really well. And I hope that the time at Google is going on well as well.
Hi everyone.
Fermi, good to have you.
Yeah, thank you
Hi,
so much.
Fermi.
Hi, Lekon.
Okay, so we will kickstart this. It's 8:05. My name is Samuel Adiri, and I'm a part of Lane. This is very interesting for me and my team back down here in Nigeria because what we're trying to do is looking through our programs, we see that Africa's representation in MBA programs could be a lot better. So what we are doing is trying to play a role in increasing that representation and making sure that people find a way to tie that back to Nigeria. So if I could simply define what Lane is a community of MBA students, alumni, and applicants looking to leverage their MBA experience for a more politically and economically inclusive Africa. I understand that that can be mouthful, but just see us as people who are concerned about the future of our continent, and we believe that the education and the exposure that the MBA provides should be something that is not so much commercialized with respect to the information people need to get into these places, but something that they could get into that is suitable for them and something that they can leverage and say, you know what, I have a big role to play in making sure that the continent as a whole progresses. I've got a couple of team members behind all this. There's Annie, there's Sandra, who just spoke a few minutes ago. There's Amarachi, there's Ozana, there's people like Lekon, and the list goes on and on of those who have supported what we're doing here, including the person who introduced the program to Amanda, even though I was there and I could have done that. But to cut the long story short, we are here. I'm going to start by first introducing our panelists. I'll call them that. It's a very heavy team from William and Mary. And the topic for today's session is centered around the qualities of a remarkable letter of recommendation, or what you know as reference letter. Amanda is a director of MBA admissions at the William and Mary Raymond Mason Business School. Followed by Joshua Lustig, who is the assistant director as well. I'll let them say something. Maybe I should start with Amanda, let her introduce herself before I move on to Josh.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Samuel, for the warm welcome. We're delighted to be here today. I am the Director of MBA Admission here at William and Mary, and I've served in this role for 11 years now. So I've had the opportunity to travel the world to meet our talented global MBA students. I'm also an alumna of William and Mary. I earned my master's degree back in 2006 through our School of Education. So you're going to notice that Josh and I are very biased about William and Mary. And in fact, we bleed green and gold. So we're very happy to be here today. I'll kick it over to Josh for a quick introduction as well.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Josh Lustig, the Associate Director, working very closely with Amanda for MBA admissions. I've been in this role for 2 years, but I also graduated from William & Mary back in 2005. So it's just an excellent place, a very tight-knit community, a beautiful place, and we'll get into a lot more, but that's why I came back ultimately to work here. It's just I had such a great experience as a student here. But good evening, everyone, and I look forward to talking with you all tonight.
Thank you, Josh. And I'm sure there are many students around. Christiana, maybe we should start with Fermi. And as you introduce yourself, just tell us, why should an international student attend the William and Mary program, especially an African, basically? So if you could just wrap that in your introduction as well, that would be awesome. So over to you, Fermi.
Thank you, Sam. I'm having issues with my video, so I may not be able to turn on my video. My name is Fermi. I always say I'm originally from Nigeria, but I don't think I have to say that because I'm talking to a community of Nigerians. I have a background in
And there
accounting.
are other Africans as well in our midst. So
Okay, okay.
please,
I'm
there's
originally
Kenya,
from
there's South
Nigeria.
Africa, I believe there's Ghana as well. So
Okay, nice. I'm originally from Nigeria. That's what I would always start with. I have a background in accounting and finance, and I did a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in accounting and finance before I came for my MBA program. And one of the major reasons why I wanted an MBA was because of number one, to understand the global perspective to solving business problems. And I was looking for a diverse yet close-knit community. And one of the things that stood out to me for William and Mary, I basically interacted with Josh initially, and it was unique. Like the experience was extremely unique. He was so caring. He was always reaching out, and I'm like, I don't even know this person. This person cares so much about my career. He was so invested in my progress, and that was why I made the ultimate decision of attending William and Mary. And so far, it's been an interesting journey. It's been an amazing experience. The close knit environment, the opportunity to learn from diverse, community, the opportunity to, so many people are just invested in your progress, the EPs, the career services, admissions, programs, to mention but a few. But then the most intriguing part is the beautiful community. Like, as you all know, Williamsburg is like an ancient community, and it's so beautiful. And each day that I step out and I see the beauty, I'm just wowed on a daily basis. So I've had an interesting experience so far.
thank you very much, Fermi. I don't know who else is online. I'm trying to scroll. Is Christiana online?
I think Leken is online and Ikenna.
Oh, okay, Leko, please jump in this.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lekon. Well, my full name is actually Ahmed Mustafa, so but my middle name is Lekon, so I usually use Lekon online. Yeah, I'm super excited to be on the call. Yes, I'm a fresh MBA, first year MBA candidate at William and Mary. Why William and Mary? So I actually got to know about William and Mary last year during the MBA tour, when Amanda gave a wonderful presentation about the institution. So there are several aspects of the MBA program that actually drove my attention. One of them is so they have what they call executive partner, where there's a set of semi-retired, even retired professionals who actually act as coaches and mentors to students within the MBA program. This was one feature that I didn't really see in any other MBA program, which made William and Mary stand out. And just even by getting to research about the institution, even speaking with Amanda and Josh, realizing that William and Mary is the second oldest institution in the US was just mind-blowing. Like, Harvard was the first, William and Mary is the second. I was just like, okay, wow, this is like a solid institution. Even though I wasn't aware about it at the time. Then got to even research about the past US presidents that have been to the institution. Just was very exciting to me to know that, okay, I might be in the same where Thomas Jefferson, some of the early founders of US were. So all of this combined with the aspect of it being ranked as number one in learning in, one of the rankings, I think that was Bloomberg ranking or one of the institutions ranked William and Mary as number one in learning in the whole of the US MBA programs or US schools. So there are several factors that just drove my attention, and I was just very excited. I was like, okay, they also have that small class number, which just makes it more like a family cohort. That was just very exciting for me. So from the first, just after meeting Amanda, I was just excited after learning about the school. I also was fortunate enough to even visit the school last year in November to even take a tour around the campus, and was very excited about the program. So yeah, it's exciting to to have many candidates who are also looking forward to joining or applying to William and Mary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laker, for that. I'm trying to see if there is Akingbade Ike now Christiana online before I move on so that they could unmute themselves and introduce themselves. They're also students of the William and Mary MBA program. Are they online?
I don't think I see Christiana or Ikenna right now.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
but if I see them pop up, I'll say something. I do see Tosin Falaren though. Is this my Tosin who graduated a couple years back from William and Mary, or another Tosin? I know the name is common in Nigeria.
Let's wait for the Stosen to answer.
This is another person.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited to be here.
Maybe you could be the second Tosin, right? So just reach out to Amanda immediately after this webinar.
Very good. Thank you so much.
All right. So now down to the topic for today, right? I will just kick it off with a question and I hope that you take it on from there. In your own experience, how would you describe a quality letter of recommendation? And then you can spin it off from there as well.
Thank you so very much, Samuel. And I do have several talking points. So as we work through the letters of recommendation, I'll also have Josh chime in if he thinks I miss anything. So this is a good test for me today. But what I would say is that in terms of the recommendation process, I guess first, this is a wonderful moment for you all as candidates for reflection. So this weekend and into the early part of next week, you should take a pause and start to think about your career and all that you've achieved to date. And when you're doing this, when you're reflecting, think about the people that have helped you to get where you are today. Your managers, your supervisors, your colleagues, your clients, your mentors, and even your friends. And as you're going through that exercise, names and people are going to come to mind, and you're going to think, wow, I had a great working relationship with my colleague, and that person really helped me on my journey. So once you've identified a list of names, typically schools are going to look for 2 people to serve as your recommender. So you'll want to think very carefully about who those individuals are. And you want to then formally invite them to be your recommender. So don't assume that they'll just produce a letter. Make sure you take that pause, take some time to pick up the phone or to schedule them on WhatsApp, and make sure that they're comfortable writing a recommendation on your behalf. And what we always say here is that what we're looking for are people who really know the quality of your work the best. So Josh and I aren't as familiar with the titles and not even all the companies in places like Abuja and Lagos and Accra and Nairobi and Joburg. We just don't know all the companies and all the people. So that's why it's really important that you think about who's going to take the time to make the best recommendation for you. You might even want to send them your updated resume, sort of as a reminder of where you connected through the company that you worked together, or just to give them an update on what you've done since you left their organization. It's a good refresher. And once they say yes, you'll also want to make sure that they're willing to write a positive recommendation. And I know we can all laugh about that a little bit, but you wouldn't believe it. Sometimes we receive recommendations that are not positive, that actually do not highlight the candidate as a strong fit for our program. So what we're looking for are really honest evaluators who can speak to your candidacy. Now, I know one of the questions earlier at the beginning was about structure, and you'll have to remember that each B school will have a different way of seeking out recommendations. Here at William and Mary, we are a school that will ask you to provide the email ID of 2 individuals. So it could be your current supervisor, if you're comfortable telling them that you're considering going for an MBA and ultimately leaving the company, or it could be a previous supervisor or manager, a previous colleague, a client that you've worked with. If you have a family business, that's especially where a client could be very helpful. But again, somebody who really knows the quality of your work. And then what you do is that you enter their email ID into our online application, and we will actually send them a structured template to follow. First, our template will ask a series of questions, and then it will give your recommender the opportunity to upload additional documentation. So maybe your recommender really has a nice form letter that they always use when they recommend people. Of course, they'll change the header to include your name, to include the William and Mary School of Business and other facts, but they will have the opportunity to upload a letter. But in addition to that, we ask them to rate you as a candidate. So we ask them questions about where you would fall on a scale of 1 to 10 with your soft skill competency. We ask them to rate things like your empathy, your responsibility, your motivation, how you embrace the unknown and ambiguity, how you work in teams, your oral communication skills, your written communication skills. And then we also ask them about the hard skills, your academic capability. So that is an example of when a school has a combination of questions that we ask, and they will also give the candidates and the recommenders the opportunity to work to upload a document. Maybe one piece of advice I would share with you all is that you never want to write your own recommendation. And unfortunately, I know that many supervisors, managers, executives are very busy, and sometimes they'll say to you, they'll say, Hosanna, please write your recommendation and I'll sign off on it. So if you are comfortable, you really want to try not to do that. And a good response might be, no, Mr. Lustig, I'm not comfortable writing that, but let me provide you some great information that you can include. And again, you can put your resume out there and then maybe some key points, but you really want to be careful not to write your own recommendation. And that's why schools like William and Mary and some other places use the rating scale, because that is done privately by the recommender through their email ID. The other style that you might see is that a school might simply say, send us 2 letters of recommendation. And then in that case, you would simply ask your recommender to write a letter, and they would send it most likely directly to the school on your behalf. And they might do it by uploading documents into a system. They might do it by sending it by email, or they might even drop the recommendation in the mail. It really depends on the preference of each university. But we're all living in the digital age, so I would say mostly you can all expect to have the capability of having recommendations uploaded. Now, you're also going to have to talk to your recommenders about the deadlines, because you certainly want to be able to prepare an application packet to meet the deadlines of each school. So it's probably not a good idea to ask a recommender 3 days before the application packet is due. But as an example, over the next couple weeks, with most business schools having round 1 applications in late October or early November, now is actually a great time to ask for a letter of recommendation, or you might want to use the phrase, Josh, would you be willing to write me a recommendation? And then explain to Josh that there are different ways per different schools. And that's how you'll get started on that process. I would also encourage you to follow up with your recommenders. So after you go through this really exciting journey of sending this important information to a school, and then ultimately earning an admissions interview, earning an offer of admission, and deciding to enroll, Once you get to that point, tell your recommender about your achievement. They certainly want to know that they've helped you to earn an offer of admission from a prestigious business school. And remember, your networking happens for life. You should never forget about your network in Nigeria or other places you've worked around the world. And you want to pull that network with you into business school so that it's always in your hip pocket just in case you need it. But I think if you do all of those things and really follow the directions that each school is asking you to follow, you should be in a great shape in terms of submitting a letter of recommendation. I'm going to have Josh chime in just a little bit so that you're not only hearing from me today, but Josh, when we evaluate our candidates through the process, could you share with them a little bit about how you view the recommendations and what role they play as you're starting to make a determination on a candidate? We'll have Josh unmute and jump in.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I had to have the host unmute me there. I apologize. But thank you for that. I also noticed one of our great students, joined the call as well, so he'll have to jump in here a little later. But with the recommendations, you know, we're really looking to learn more about you, first of all. Your work ethic. Obviously, we'll be able to see in your resume what you've done, but the recommenders can tell more about you and some of your strengths, maybe weaknesses as well, but hopefully most of your strengths. The one thing Amanda mentioned that I wanted to bring up also and spend a little more time on it is of the teamwork, how you work in groups. I know our current students can tell, even though some of them are new here, but I know Farron me has been here a while, that can talk about how much teamwork goes on at William & Mary and how that's important. So when you're thinking about recommenders, you may want to think about who knows you as a good teammate, someone that's worked well with other colleagues, with maybe that recommender, because again, you're going to be doing a lot of that teamwork and interaction with other students at William & Mary. So think about those things. And again, the certain skills that maybe that you want a recommender to write, you got to think about which recommender will actually do that for you. So who, you know, maybe for one person, you really didn't work in a team. So that might not be the person you would reach out to if you want someone to talk about your teamwork skills. So those are a couple things, but again, the big thing is we really just want to get to know more about you. And like Amanda said, you definitely want to reach out to someone that knows you well and that you've done a good job for. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. So, Amanda, I don't know if you have other things to chime in, but the question on my mind, and I want us to double click on that is, since you pick up an application package, what's the first thing you reach out for? Is it the letter of recommendation or the resume? How does your mind process this document? And once you reach out for the letter of recommendation, what exactly do you scan through? Because I could assume that you could be in the office. I understand some schools allow you to review the application outside of the office. Could you just help us delve into your life as an admission officer through the perspective of selecting this document? Okay, do I have to unmute Amanda? Yes. Oh, great. I think you've done that. You can mute yourself.
Okay, I'm back. Very good. Samuel, that's a great question. And the question again for the entire audience is, which part of the application do we reach for first when we're opening up the application and evaluating? Well, first of all, this is the office where it actually happens. So that's kind of exciting to think you're sitting with me today in the office. And to my left, I actually have a dual monitor screen. And I love the dual monitor because I can actually see all aspects of your application at once. And we're using a little known technology called Salesforce for the application itself these days. So it is a very sophisticated way. And Samuel, the answer to that is I can actually scroll through Cynthia's entire application for admission all at once. And so as I'm scrolling, I guess, where do I stop? And the first part is absolutely the professional resume for me. I always like to see in a snapshot what somebody has done, where they've studied, the discipline they studied, where they've worked professionally and the progression of their work. And then also usually I get to know where they're from and a little bit of extra information in terms of their skills and competencies and maybe interests. So I'm a big fan of the professional resume, and that's another area where I really want you to spend a lot of time developing that document. You'll also want to put that resume into MBA standards. So go out to our website or other websites and say, what does an MBA formatted resume look like? Because different than a CV in Kenya or South Africa or Nigeria, we're actually looking for a 1 to 2 page resume at this point. It should be a very tight document, not telling us about everything you've done, but a nice snapshot. From there, I do read those essays. Those admissions essays are your story, essentially, and they're so very important to us. So Josh and I read every single admissions essay that you offer in your application when we're evaluating you. And then from there, I get to the letters of recommendation because, of course, I want to know if what you're saying about yourself is somewhat repeated in what others are saying about you. So those items really marry together well, and we're able to get a better understanding of, okay, I can see why Franklin applied to William and Mary. He's interested in corporate finance, and we have a wonderful corporate finance program. I could see his work in corporate finance for Citi, Nigeria, and I can see his great academic history, maybe in computer engineering or in finance itself. And now I can see why Franklin is so excited about William and Mary. So it really helps us to put together the story. And then Samuel, from there, Josh and I will have a discussion and we'll reach out to our candidates and invite them to interview. And then that's where we really start to get to know them even more and start to test their professional qualities. You know, did they show up for this Zoom session like I look and like Josh looks today? Were they in a professional background? Were they wearing a sport coat? Were they really prepared to have a conversation? We don't care about things like technology failures or the lights going out or small interruptions. That doesn't bother us. But the effort that you put in presenting a professional image is what we care about the most. Samuel, does that help explain how the letters of recommendation help in that process and how Josh and I kind of look at things?
It does an amazing job. And I'm just going to try and reach out to my teammate, Sandra. If Sandra, you can hear me, if you could just prepare a Google spreadsheet so that everyone who's attended this webinar can input their full names and their email addresses so that I can send that to Amanda for her to have a list to check that way. So Sandra, if you can hear me, just let me know. Oh, I have to mute her.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
got it.
Okay, so if we could have that before the end of the program, that would be great.
And Amanda Samuel, we would love to share a little bit about, of course, opportunities for African students when the time is right, but we'll let you take it from here and let us know what else you're curious about or open to questions.
You know, thank you very much. I was scrolling through the list of the participants and I found that Iken and Christiana are actually online. Nice. Now, so it'll be great to just hold on the letter of recommendation and have them unmute and introduce themselves. What we're particularly looking for is their past experience before the MBA, what they're doing in the MBA is something really interesting to them, and then what their post-MBA would look like, as well as their internship.
Great.
So, Christiana, over to you if you can hear us. I do have to unmute you, right? If I haven't already done that.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, can we see your face if that's possible?
Yes, that is. Hi, Samuel.
Great.
Hi. So it's a pleasure to be here. I kind of joined in late. My apologies. But can you go through your questions again?
Okay, so what I was asking is if you could just give us a feel of your background, where you're coming from, where you're
Okay.
currently at with your MBA, and perhaps tell us what exactly stood out for you in the William and Mary MBA program, the Raymond Mason
All,
program.
all right. I have a bachelor's degree from Michael Opera University in computer science and a master's degree in management of technology from ESSER, Paris. And so I've worked with Technical Aid Corps. I volunteered for 2 years, spent 2 years in Liberia working with Kakata Rural Teachers Training Institute. So that was under the Ministry of Education. So I reported directly to the Embassy of Nigeria in Monrovia. And then I spent a year in Luxembourg working with ArcelorMittal as an IT analyst. So most of my work life has centered around technology and business intelligence. So what I did at ArcelorMittal was working on big data projects and then trying to see how we could manage data quality in SAP Business Warehouse. So what drew me to Williams and Mary was the executive partner program. It's simply amazing. I immediately I saw that I was like, I want to be in this school and I want to experience this. I actually was looking for something that would help me apply my technical skills to the broader challenges in business. And then that's what spurred my interest in an MBA. And then particularly Williams and Mary, I loved the executive partner program. I told Amanda that, and I said, I just want to know more about your executive partner program. And I've worked severally within multicultural teams, and that's something that Williams and Mary promotes as well. So we are in teams, there are diverse cultures in teams, and so you're introduced to cross-cultural competence, and as well as very in-depth data analytics skills. So it's just amazing, the experiences I'm having right now. It's exposure to teams, and the executive partner program, it's partners who have worked, I don't know, Amanda or Josh, you can correct me, people who have worked for a very long time and are retired. They come in and they volunteer to be your partners through the MBA journey. And so when you work with them, they tell you this is what to do, this is where you're getting it wrong. Why don't you look at this, look at that, and then you rub minds together. I've had an amazing experience. I'm just like a month old, but it's been an amazing experience with my executive partner. So I'm looking towards launching into supply chain. That's 2 years from now, and I want to see where that can take me. My entire post MBA what would I say, career isn't clear, but I know I'm going to supply chain, and I am hoping for the best.
Thank you very much for Christiana for that very detailed introduction. We've learned a lot about the partners program, and something that I know Amanda would want to talk about later on. But Sandra's just shared the Google Docs, the spreadsheet. So if you're applying and you think you'd consider, I think you should just fill that form. I personally have been through the process as well, and someone just said something about Amanda's liveliness. It is contagious. If you don't want to smile, don't near Amanda. Because if you do, you will have no choice but to put a smile on your face. I think I'm now going to call on Ikenna. If Ikenna can hear me, I'll try to mute him.
Because I'm not a numbers person, my first thought was,
thanks a lot, Samuel.
we're going to be on the
Ikenna,
hook for their
welcome.
debt.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So, sorry, I kind of joined in a little bit later as well.
Oh, okay. So what we're just asking is you could just give us a background of where you're coming from, what the MBA program looks like for you, especially your perspective as an African, as a Nigerian, and what you hope to do afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much, Samuel. So, I mean, a little background to myself. I come from a math background. I studied statistics in the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, and I graduated in 2014. And afterwards, I started off my career in management consulting in the strategy department. And then from strategy, I moved into human resources, and from human resources to operations, then from operations to marketing. And all of this was within the mid-size and startups just in the West African markets. My focus has been around tech, a bit of tech, retail and lifestyle space. And I worked there for about 5 years before I decided to move for my MBA. And I chose William and Mary because of, first of all, the program is flexible. Aside from being very flexible, it's highly personal. It's personalized. So it's not like the regular programs you see where your cohorts would be 700 in number or even 1,000 in number. This is smaller. So it afforded me a very personalized experience. And that was what I wanted from my MBA. I wanted an experience, a program that is super personalized, and I can have one-on-one interaction with the faculty. A situation whereby I can walk into my faculty's office and say, Professor, I have this problem, I have this issue with this course, how can we work on it? And they're very willing to help. And one thing I noticed, one thing that stood out for me during my research, speaking to both alumni, current students, and even staff of William and Mary, was there's this culture to help. Everyone is willing to help you and listen to you. And then again, the environment, the tribe is, so we call ourselves the tribe, we're a tribe. And the tribe is super diverse because we have people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different races, all in one space, collaborating together to achieve success. And like Christiana also said, the very unique resource of William and Mary is the executive partner. This is a resource that, honestly, I can't tell you how much I've benefited from that. Just a couple of minutes ago, I was witnessing and observing a board meeting, and I got into that board meeting from my executive partner. So I said to him that I want to start gaining board experiences, and he says, oh, I'm the chair of a particular board. I will speak to the board members to allow you observe our board meeting. And they got me in to observe the board meeting. And this is in the space of 4 hours, I have picked up experiences, that decades of experiences is what I've picked up in the space of 4 hours. And I mean, I wouldn't have had this if I didn't have this EP, my executive partner, on my side. And this is definitely something I'm certain that most schools do not have. William and Mary has this unique advantage. And for me, I would say to you, if you want to, this was an advice an alumni give to me. If you're looking for a school that would basically hand you over a golden job without transforming you, William and Mary is not for you. But if you want to get transformed, if you want to see yourself evolve in a way that you have not thought possible, highlighting those areas of your personality that you never thought possible, then William and Mary is for you. Within the space of 3 weeks, I literally can't explain or run through the amount of achievements and the amount of transformation I've seen in myself in the space of 3 weeks. So I would say to you, if you really want a wholesome MBA program that is super exciting, flexible, personalized, and very different from what we're used to in Nigeria, William and Mary is definitely the right choice for you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Akina. And just to chip in there, we had Fermi a couple of months ago talking about our internship experience. I think she was just about to start then at Google, and she made mention of this program you talked about. And I think it's one thing that I wanted to highlight is to many Nigerians, and I think this is obviously the work of the media, because some kind of business schools reached out to the African market earlier on. So it's really hard for people to see that there's a whole big world out there. And that the fact that you've never heard of the program does not mean that the program is not amazing. There are companies I've never heard of, and I hear people work at, and they're way, way, way 10 times bigger than the companies that we think are the massive firms. So out to the guests who are out there, just understand that the fact that you may not have heard about the program, there are many MBA programs out there, especially the William and Mary program, that are amazing and will get you to where you need to get into. And for many of us, I think we do need that hand-holding, because it's a cultural shock for some of us. We're moving from Nigeria, where certain things are done in certain ways, into a different economy, to a different place. It's always comforting to have somebody tell you, you know what, I understand that you have this and this, and I'm willing to walk you through that. So Amanda, let's go back to reference letters. Someone asked earlier on, what is enough and what is too descriptive? What is too long and what is too short? Could you talk a bit about that?
Yes, that's a great question, Samuel. And again, because of the fact that we're using templates in a lot of cases, usually when your recommender goes in there, it will say, you know, fill this template. And then if you upload a recommendation letter, it should be a letter. It should be probably just a 1-page letter. Maybe it could be 2 pages, but what you want to do is keep the reader's attention. And if we're reading hundreds and thousands of recommendations, you want to make sure that we can get through yours pretty well and fully. So I would say tell your recommender, typically it's a 1-page standard letter, and that gives us enough information. And we also do ask for their email IDs. It's very rare, but sometimes I will reach out to a recommender if I have any additional questions, or I might call a recommender. We also ask for the phone number. So again, a 1-page standard is what you're looking for when uploading, and I would not recommend much more than that.
Okay. So when you're having a 1-page resume, as I said resume, 1-page letter recommendation, I think the mechanics or the content of the resume is something I want to double click on. How would you describe, or better still, let me rephrase this question. What would you call a resume that should never get to you? How would you describe that resume?
Yeah, the recommender letter that should never get to me should be one that is very thin, one that would use the wrong name. So the recommender didn't even include your name, somebody else's, and one that just doesn't say anything. So make sure that they are taking the time. The content should generally say, you know, at the opening, you know, my name is Amanda Barth, and I am writing a recommendation on behalf of Christiana Isu. I've known Christiana for 2 years through the William and Mary MBA program. While Christiana was in our program, I saw her, you know, have a very strong academic experience through our supply chain specialization. Maybe she was the head of our ops IT club, and she was involved in the MBA association. So, and then you'll want to talk about the qualities. So I would also say, you know, from my observation, Christiana is a wonderful team player. She has exceptional communication skills. She's incredibly professional. And then I would say she's somebody that your company cannot live without. Hire Christiana today. But of course, for us, it would be that, you know, William and Mary would be very lucky to have her as an MBA candidate. So talk to your recommender about those things, but that's pretty much the content. How do you know the person? In what capacity? For how long? You know, what qualities do you say they possess? And why does the recommender feel like the MBA is a right next fit? And then specifically, you know, why William and Mary? Although, Samuel, I would encourage that all of the candidates on the call today, please hear our words and know that they are applicable to other business schools. Of course, we know that you'll be looking at great schools throughout the US and around the world, but this is pretty much standard about what we're all looking for.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for your response. The thing is, we cannot, you know, deny the fact that COVID is changing the way everything is happening around us. You know, someone said all the people who answered the question of where do you see yourself in 5 years ago, they all got it wrong. And that's the reality about life. But I think where I'm driving at is, how is COVID impacting the way you're reviewing admissions? I mean, there's different stories. I think is a very important one to highlight for the people attending. There's different stories about how the volume of application would increase in this cycle and what will happen and what will not happen. But as an admission officer who's been doing this, I hope Josh can also chime in one or two things as well. How would you say COVID is going to impact applications this year?
Yes, Samuel, I'll go ahead and start, but unmute Josh also, because I will have
Okay.
him jump in. First of all, on behalf of all of us here at William and Mary, and on behalf of the United States, we're thinking of you, and we hope you're thinking of us. This is a global pandemic, and my friends, we're all in this together. So before we worry about the MBA, we're praying for you. Please stay healthy. Please stay safe. Encourage everybody to wear masks, please. We all want to get through this so that we can get back to Nigeria to see you. I miss it. I told Samuel that last season was my first opportunity visiting the subcontinent. And for me today, it's a little heartbreaking that I cannot be with you in person. But we are all professionals and we're working through ambiguity. I want to mention that you heard what Christiana and Ikenna had to say and Lecken about the experience so far. And my friends, they're not even here in the United States. This is the experience that these three candidates are having virtually in a residential program. So we are hoping and praying that the embassy opens quickly in Nigeria, in either Abuja or Lagos, because we are waiting on Christiana, Lecken, and also Ikenna to get here and to really have a dynamo experience. From the admission standpoint, of course, Josh and I have had to adjust. One of the big things you're gonna see this year is that most MBA programs are waiving, wait for it, the GMAT, the GRE, the TOEFL, and the IELTS. So I'm gonna say if there was ever a time to apply for an MBA, it's right now, because I really know that Josh and I are planning to dig deeper, a lot deeper into the application packets this year, looking at the professional experience, digging into your academic history, and really relying on those factors for guidance. Josh, what are the conversations looking like for you now? I can talk about what we're looking for, but I know we've already started interviewing. So tell me about the conversations you're having, Josh.
Sure. I first want to say I'm bummed I can't see you all this year. Amanda was going to let me travel with her to Africa, and it would have been my first time. So COVID has really hit me tough in that sense, because we are a global MBA. Anywhere from 15 to 20 different countries are represented each year, and I was going to get to come with her, like I said, down there to Africa. So maybe next year. But again, thank you all for being on. It's fun seeing you virtually. The conversations are definitely having those about COVID. I think one thing is we understand for sure this is a difficult time for everyone. Maybe you lost a job because of COVID. We understand, like things like that are going to happen. So don't feel too bad as far as the application process with that. Just be honest with us what happened, and we totally understand. I think this honestly is a time that a lot of people are thinking about going back because of maybe the unemployment things or just having time to reflect and think this is the time to go. So those conversations are definitely coming up. The one thing I would like to say though, just maybe a little bit of advice, is because of COVID, a lot of things, most everything is virtual these days, especially the application process with an interview or what have you, is to always come across as professional as you can. No matter what you may think the Zoom meeting is, it's always good when you're meeting someone for the first time to show them your best. So that might be just physically, be prepared, dress nice, know what you want to say, how you want to present yourself, basically. So that would just be my one tip. When you're doing a lot of these Zoom sessions and virtual sessions, be professional, at least as most as you can. I understand sometimes it would, you don't need to be, but most of the time just try to show your best and put your best foot forward. But I'm watching the chat, so if anyone has any questions or anything, please feel free to continue that. But thank you for the time, Samuel.
Thank you very much, Josh. And that's why I'm giving everyone the chance to mute themselves and ask their question. I know we have a lot of excuses with respect to not being able to turn on our video bandwidth problems and things like that. But I always encourage those who can to please do. It's always great to see your face and forget about the background, but just, we all know what and understand. So if you have any question, please raise your hand or let me know so I can unmute you. Actually, I'll let participant be able
and while
to.
Samuel's looking at questions, we really do invite you all to work with us. I think you can already tell that Josh and I are a little different than other admissions teams. We do have a fiery spirit, and we really like to get to know our candidates. We're alumni, and we're picking that next generation of talent. So we love to work with you. You got our email addresses at the top of the chat. Samuel can send our email IDs. And I'm gonna go ahead and unveil that application fee waiver just in case it's missed. But there you go, it's WMMBA 1966. We would love to have you all consider us this season. Samuel, happy to answer those questions.
So grab that application fee waiver and lock it up somewhere. You will need it. Thank you. And on behalf of everyone, I wish I could unmute. If it was a physical gathering, I'm sure we'd all be saying thank you in our different voices. But on behalf of my team members, on behalf of those participants attending and our members, we say a very big thank you to you for offering this at a time like this. We really appreciate it. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. We've still got about 5. I could ask for about 5 extra more minutes. So let's feel free to unmute. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Samuel. I'd like to share one recommendation letter mistake that I made since we are talking about recommendation letter.
Awesome.
So, so I applied to a couple of schools when I was applying, I think 6, 7, 8 schools. And then I didn't want to overburden 2 people to write recommendation letters for 8 schools. So I reached out to a couple of people, about, I think 7, 8 people. And I told them what I wanted to do, send them my resume and all of that, followed up with them. And then there are some schools that you're able to see the recommendation that any person recommends or says about you. And I had worked hard on one of the schools. I wrote like 4 essays because, some schools have like 4 essays for you to write. So I wrote like 4 essays, did everything went fine. And then my recommender just wrote a sentence about me. Farami is an amazing person. Please, I recommend her for any whatever she wants to do. And I'm like, what? This is like total, as in, it was a total mistake on my part. Maybe I didn't specifically describe what I wanted, how he should put up the recommendation letter for me. So I think everything Amanda said is very, very important. Everything Josh had said is important. Please take it very important, because it could make a difference. It could be the reason why you are not given any opportunity to interview with the school. So I just wanted to share.
Thank you very much, Farami. Thank you very much. Any question? Yeah, someone is asking me privately. I wish you could unmute yourself and ask this question. So the person is trying to understand what are the funding opportunities available at the program. And I think another question I'd like to tie to that is, how does wavering standardized test score affect funding as well? Because I know the business schools use that to rank candidates. If you could check that, that would be great.
Absolutely, Samuel. That is a very fair question. And our funding has not been impacted by COVID at William and Mary, but that is not the case at every university in the United States or around the world. Some schools might have budget cutbacks next season that might impact some of their ability to fund scholarships. We're very lucky for our generous donors here, and so far so good. Standardized tests have historically been factored in for scholarship and also for graduate assistantship, but this year we are going to primarily look at the undergraduate academic history and the professional experiences. So I guess the positive to that is that if you've had a really great academic history, you've been working consistently, and you're very professional in your presentation, then those are the main skills that we'll evaluate you on. The downside is if maybe one area was weaker, but then you're getting better and you're actually quite capable and a test would have demonstrated it. Let me be clear, just because we're not requiring it does not mean you cannot submit a GRE or a GMAT. And I believe that ETS GRE is still offering the GRE at home. And I'm pretty confident that GMAC or MBA.com is still offering the GMAT at home in certain locations. So if you feel like, yeah, I was okay in undergraduate, but I am so professional and I am so motivated and I'm so smart, then you might want to think about the exam as a way to bridge the gap. But then here's the trick. You could always study for the exam, take the exam. Before you send the scores to a school, just check in with me or Faradni or Samuel or Josh or Christiana or Aiken or Lekin or Ikenna. We'll tell you you're good to go. That's a great score. A school would be very excited to receive it. Or we might be honest and say that didn't help you, so I would go without it. So it's actually giving you leverage, but don't be afraid of those exams. Another fact is if you're getting into a sector like investment banking, you are going to probably need to take the GMAT at some point. That doesn't mean that every company will require it, but there are certain sectors like management consulting and iBanking that might end up saying, so did you take the GMAT exam? How did you do? So don't be afraid of it. If it's something you're already studying for, go do it. If you feel like you aced it, then definitely submit those scores. And if you feel like you bombed it, then have a conversation with us and we'll try to give you some good guidance. Because I think we're all going to have to work through this together, to be quite honest. We don't know what to expect this year either. And we're counting on you to all make sure you're ready for MBA study. Because if we're lightening up a bit, then you're going to have to work harder in your program. Does that make sense?
Yes, Amanda, that's actually really great. And I just want to say a very big thank you to the Raymond Mason program for that flexibility. You know, down in Nigeria, right through this webinar, I've actually been praying that the power does not go out, because that's one thing at the back of my mind that I know could possibly happen. And that's one big challenge for many people taking their test at home, and people would rather hope that, you know, everywhere gets open and we can take the actual test.
Yeah.
I think I also want to double click in something you've said and just point it out to our participants as well, that you cannot underestimate the power of communicating with the admission officer even before you start your application or before you hit send. I think I just want, Amanda and Josh, I want to take your perspective on that, because I've been getting that itch that, you know, it does have a long way to go in the final decision. Could you walk us through how you think about interactions before submission?
Yeah,
Sure,
you know, look at it almost like if you're applying for a job, you know, how much communication would you have with an HR officer? So, but a little different, because we're still recruiting you. We want you here. We want you to come and study with us. So it's a balance. So there is too much communication and there's also too little communication. So I would say strike a balance. First of all, if you walk away from this call and you say, I really like what those people have to say, I can see that they're authentic, I can see that they're real, then send us a note and say, I really enjoyed your presentation. Here's my information. I would like to stay in touch with you as I consider whether or not to apply to William and Mary. And then Josh, I know when you're working with applicants through the pipeline, you usually like them to tell you when they're ready to apply, correct?
Sure. You know, I was quick today on the chat to drop Amanda and I's email address, so please use it. We do like to interact with you all even before you submit the application. We are here to answer some of your questions. So please don't hesitate to shoot us that first email, and then how it goes, and we'll email you back and answer those questions. But that's the biggest thing is please feel confident to use those email addresses and introduce yourself and ask us your question.
Very good. And then from there, balance the too much, too little. So don't ask us every time you have a question, because we want to see that you can figure out how to use the application portal and that you can problem solve a little bit on your own. But my goodness, if you have a big question or after you're admitted, you should be asking us, Amanda, can I have extra time with you because I'm making a big decision between William and Mary and Georgetown and Maryland and Ohio State, and I need to know why William and Mary. That's when you really use us. That shows us that, you know, you're serious, and that gives us the opportunity to really help you to see the similarities and differences. And Josh and I will always shoot from the hip. There are so many things that William and Mary offers here that that you have access to. Things like our Center for African Development, and actually Professor Obasanjo, her father was the president of Nigeria from 99 to 07, and she is a faculty member here at William and Mary. So there are so many things. We have an Alumni of Color Network, student diversity clubs, a diversity and inclusion initiative sponsored by EY at the business school. This is the place to be, but let us talk you through that. Let us be your partner. So just balance too much, too little. That's the only thing we'll say about that.
Thank you very much, Amanda. And there's just one last question before I let you guys go. You know, we cannot overemphasize how grateful we are to you for joining us today. So the question comes from Kim. She's saying, when do you think the MBA program of the William and Mary can return to class? Will the 2021 session be online?
Yes, so actually,
and maybe just to add to that, what is the school doing right now to help its international students who are stuck in their home countries?
Yes, so just to let everybody know, we are open. We are a university in the United States who's been very successful in reopening because we have a low count of COVID cases in Williamsburg. We're very lucky, we're very fortunate, and our students have done a great job wearing masks everywhere they go, and we're still physical distancing in the classroom, but we are actually in person and open. We're just waiting on the embassies to reopen to get our last few global students, really just from Nigeria, Ghana, and a few more students from Africa, but everybody else is here. And a fun story, I'm sure students will tell you when this happens, but Josh and I have been making airport runs since the beginning of August. When you get your visa, we are going to get in the car and we will travel to Washington, D.C., and we will be the first two faces that you see welcoming you to the United States. So to kind of put some cheer around it, we are waiting patiently and the caravan is ready, right, Josh?
That's right. I'm excited to see you all.
Thank you. And Amanda, I'm looking forward to that meeting.
Yes. Yeah, Samuel, you keep up the good work and I will be the first person there.
All right. I want to say a very big thank you to Josh, Amanda, Christiana, Fermi, Ikenna, Lacorn, and I think it's one more person who couldn't make it, Akimbade and Piton couldn't make it down yet. So I want to say a very big thank you to you guys. You're free to go now. We usually have an after session, about 30 minutes, where we just allow the students to stay, and then we just talk through other things as well that people may be a little bit shy to talk about in front of the people who would be interviewing them very soon. So thank you very much for your time, and we do appreciate you.
All right, Godspeed and best wishes, Team Nigeria. We can't wait to see you all. And if you're from another country, really excited to work with you. We deeply value our global students. So thank you. Be healthy, be safe.
Thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend.
Take care, everyone. Have a great night.
Sir Josh, thank you.
Okay, great. Guys, I'm stopping the recording here.